before I start, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of these real, heart-wrenching stories. And I'd love to hear what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments below. It started with a text, just a few words, but they landed like a punch I didn't see coming. I'm marrying someone else. I stared at my phone, blinking. At first, I thought it was a joke. Maybe a cruel prank? Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. But the timestamp, her name, the words themselves, they were real. My heart stuttered. My chest tightened. I wanted to throw the phone, to scream, to demand an explanation. But instead, I did something I never thought I could. I stayed calm. I kept thinking maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she meant she was happy for a friend, or it was some weird metaphor I didn't understand. I remember the small things, though. The subtle shift in her tone over the last few months. The night she came home later than usual with flimsy excuses. The little lies about work or errands. I had brushed them off at first, telling myself I was imagining things, that love meant trust, that I shouldn't let suspicion ruin us. But doubts kept creeping in. Her phone always face down on the table. She laughed at messages she wouldn't show me. She'd say she was busy and disappear for hours, and I would wait, worrying, silently convincing myself I was paranoid. I replayed our last year together, try and pick apart every smile, every hug, every whispered, "I love you." And now that text? It shattered the illusion I had been clinging to. I didn't call her immediately. I didn't storm into bedroom or demand answers. Instead, I went about my day, pretending nothing had happened, while my mind was a hurricane of disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. I started noticing more. The receipts for dinner she didn't mention, the subtle scent of another man's cologne on her scarf, the tiny gaps in her story that suddenly made sense. The breaking point came one evening when she left her phone unattended. I didn't snoop because I wanted to confirm my fears. I just looked, and there it was. Messages, pictures, plans, laughter with a man I didn't know. My wife, the woman I loved, the one I trusted with my heart, was building a life with someone else. Every word, every photo, every laugh, they weren't meant for me. They were for him. I felt like my stomach had been hollowed out. The memories that once warmed me now stabbed. The quiet Sunday mornings in our kitchen, the way she rested her head on my shoulder, the little notes she left in my jacket pocket. All of it was a lie, or at least a lie in retrospect. My mind spun with questions I couldn't answer. Did she ever love me? Was I blind? Or was this betrayal just inevitable? When she finally told me in person, calmly, almost casually, like she was sharing a weather forecast, I didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't scream. She said, "I met someone else. I'm marrying him. I'm sorry." And I listened. I could hear her guilt hiding behind rehearsed words, her eyes darting away when she thought I wasn't looking. I could sense she wanted forgiveness, or at least understanding. But there was no warmth left in the space between us. I remember the silence that followed, heavy and suffocating. I realized something. I could let anger consume me, or I could take control of my life. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to fight. I simply said, "I understand. Goodbye." And that was it. The marriage was over. No shouting matches, no public humiliation, no desperate attempts to cling to what was gone. Just quiet, deliberate closure. She left, and I didn't follow. For the first time in months, I felt free. The days that followed were hard. I caught myself replaying our past, wondering where I went wrong, wondering if I should have seen the signs sooner. But slowly, the anger faded into clarity. I began to understand that her choices were hers, not mine. I couldn't control her heart, but I could control mine. I could choose dignity over despair. And in that quiet aftermath, I found a strange strength. I began to rebuild not just my apartment, not just my routines, but my sense of self. I laughed again. I made plans for the future. I remember what it felt like to live for myself, not for someone else's approval. The betrayal still stung, and it probably always would, but I was no longer a victim of someone else's choices. Sometimes I think about her. I remember the way her laughter used to fill the room, the way we dreamed together, and I let myself feel the sadness, but I don't let it define me. I survived her betrayal, not by clinging to anger or regret, but by standing firm, quietly, and reclaiming my life. She announced she was marrying another man, and I stayed calm. And in that calm, I found something she could never take, myself. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below telling me what you would have done if you were in my shoes. Would you have stayed calm or lost it completely?